Good Monday morning. This is Dr. Bill Williams coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia with another episode of the Influencers Podcast. And today we are having a friend from Carlsbad, California, Nick Musica. And he is the founder of LLC named Optics In. So a limited liability company. That means you are in business for business. Tell us more about it. What are you doing? How did you get started with all of this? And what are you surrounded by besides the great weather of California?
Good to see you again. Good afternoon. Good morning. Yeah. I'm surrounded by a painting over here. This is my wife's. I forget what it's called. And a little screen back here that separates the rest of the house. In terms of how I got involved in SEO, I've been doing SEO since 2003 in one form or another. If you're touching a website, you're doing SEO, and I was touching a website. I was working at a place where we had a contract with an SEO firm. We signed up for 6 months. This was a baby of AT&T back in the day in New Jersey, and for the first 3 months, they gave us the deliverable was a PDF of 4 different pages on the website with edits to the copy. That was for 3 months in a row, and that was for $6,000 a month. So I went to my boss at the time and I said, we're really paying $6,000 a month for this. Okay, let's see what happens next month. And then the 4th month, they gave us a cross-linking deliverable. I copied them. There was nothing specific about our website in that deliverable. I copied and pasted the content that was in the PDF into Google, and I started getting back very similar results. And I showed him that. He said, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to go find us some training. I want you to go get us someone who's going to confirm what we know and educate us on things that we don't know. So I went out and I found Shari Thoreau. She's been doing SEO for a very long time. And so that set me on a trajectory of hunkering down into SEO for a while. I ended up co-authoring a book with Shari in 2009 and teaching a class at NYU at the graduate level for a semester before moving out to California.
So you saw them charging big bucks and you decided we're going to go learn that, save that for our company. Then you became a guru in the subject matter.
Yeah, that's the short story of it all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the way you do it. You get on the ground floor and go up.
For sure. Yeah. And it was super helpful to have Shari coming in, proper training. It wasn't searching the internet. You can do that today on anything, right? I mean, I'm a drywall expert, sort of. and the way that I got there is fixing holes in the garage, things like that. But my scenario in the garage was not the 3 or 4 YouTube videos that I saw on drywalling. They have this perfect little square and they fix the perfect little square. And then you go back to your hole and you go, it's just not the perfect little square. And there's pipes and there's no beams that I can anchor my drywall into. So you have to figure it out. It's way easier when you have a Shari Thoreau come in and you can talk to her one-on-one and talk about your website, or you get the training from her and then you have access to her afterwards. That's how that relationship worked.
And so how did you end up at your current company? Or is it you're the founder, of course? How did you create it?
Yeah. I was an in-house SEO for quite a while, and my last big SEO job as a W-2 was for a little company here in town. We had a website, it still exists, called dmv.org. When I got there in 2012, the site was getting 85 million visits a year. When I left 6 years later, it was getting 185 million visits a year, largely through SEO. It was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. And at the same time, after you hit 185 million visits a year, it's a little hard to figure out where you want to go to do better than that. It's a lot of traffic, and it was a lot of fun to get that traffic.
Conversion, that's where you want to go.
Yes, and we did really good with conversion as well, because of the traffic and because of the conversion and the greater team. We grew a company of 7-ish people to about 40-ish people in that time frame. So it was pretty good. Yeah. So eventually I found myself in a position of simply wanting to focus back on SEO, but specifically for small and medium-sized companies and entrepreneurs. And I've been doing that since 2019, before the pandemic.
Okay, very good. So you've seen a lot of successes and failures. Give us a failure that you've been a part of, knew a lot about, or something that you had ability to turn something around.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the DMV.org example. So while we increased traffic from 85 million to 185 million over 6 years, what we didn't do was a couple things. We didn't diversify a portfolio of websites in this case. So you can think of diversification in the context of your business, but at that business, it was a publishing model, and we didn't diversify the traffic. A lot of 99% of the effort was on DMV.org. And why that matters is because at some point, literally a week after I left the company, Google decided you are not anything about the DMV. You should not outrank the California DMV. You should not outrank the New York State DMV. Our site, DMV.org, had a lot of division motor vehicle content, funny enough, given the name, right? It aggregated 50 states together, and it served a really big purpose. It helped a lot of folks out. Also, it wasn't these state agencies. And so effectively, we didn't have a brand. So if you were to break down the query types that you type into Google, there's essentially 3 query types. There's informational, how do I do something? There's transactional, how do I buy something? And there's navigational, how do I get to a specific website or a specific page on a website? Well, if you don't have a brand, DMV.org arguably not being a brand in the case, because it's a query that maps to DMV in your state, depending on the state that you're querying from, then you lose all of that traffic if Google determines you should not outrank the DMV with a DMV-centric query. And that is what happened. So literally no more than a week after I left, I got a text from my manager saying, so you've been gone for less than a week and we lost 40% of our traffic overnight. So picked up the phone. Was there a release? Let's go through the list. Well, that was the first drop in traffic that happened in the multiple rounds of layoffs. It's no longer a 40-person company anymore. Short story. So diversify, also have a brand. There's a lot of people who can write how-to content. There's AI that can write how-to content these days. At the end of all of it, you need to stand for something, and that's what the brand is. And if you're gonna parrot someone else's name, for lack of a better phrase, or if you just don't have an identity, you're going to lose something, or you're not going to be at a position where you want to be in 3 to 5 years.
So you left right before this Google disaster.
I did. Yeah.
That was fortunate for you.
It was pretty good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what motivates you daily. Like, you get up and get going. What's your juice?
Yeah, so my morning routine is typically too much coffee and a meditation. Hopefully the meditation before the too much coffee kicks in. But that's my morning routine. What keeps me going is, and for anyone who's been doing marketing for more than a minute, there's a lot of repetitious work, and then there's the very nuanced work for the project, for the brand, right? And that's sort of pretty par for the course, be it paid, be it email, be it SEO. And so people ask me, what you've been doing this since 2003, one way or the other is how you phrase it. Yes, that's true. And so what keeps you engaged, and what keeps me engaged is getting the results for folks. Like it is tedious sometimes, checking through a technical list, working with writers to make sure it's on time, to make sure that we're ticking all the right boxes, right? There's a lot of details. And at the end of all, when that traffic starts to kick up in about 9 months, that's such a happy moment, because then people really start to see the effort that they put in for 9 months starting to come through fruition, and that's the start of a different conversation.
Can you say that a startup takes 9 months before SEO kicks in? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, so I would say there's 2 scenarios. One is we'll say a startup or a new website. You need to put in, of course, the right amount of effort. You need to have a website that can support that effort technically. You should have a decent product to sell. But typically it takes about 9 months for what I call the traffic to get interesting. There's a lot of work that goes into it without seeing a whole lot of results. It's almost like a 401k plan. Right? It's so not interesting to put $1 in every day. But if you keep on doing that, at some point in time, we'll call it just 12 months later. If it compounds and the market is doing the right thing in your favor, you look at it and you go, oh, that dollar every day was really worth it. And it starts to compound and it looks very interesting. The other way that folks get a lot of traffic very quickly is, and I have a case study on the website. I worked with a company who wasn't doing anything for SEO, nothing, but they were a legitimate company. They had a good product and they happened to get a lot of good backlinks. What they didn't do is really dig into the gold that they had sitting in the website. So we started to work with them, and literally in 6 months, we went from 14,000 SEO visits a month to 200,000 SEO visits a month. But it's because that site was in existence for 10 years prior. And they had a history with Google. They didn't play any games. They were a good citizen. And so we simply tapped into that well of goodness with a good strategy, with good resources, and we got that jump in traffic.
So you said Google has a memory, and you build on top of what Google knows about you when you're talking SEO.
It's a relationship, yeah.
What about automation and AI? Can it create SEO on a
Still there, Dr. Bill? Check.
We were just having some internet fluctuations, or maybe Google heard us talking about it and shut us down. How can AI and automation play a part in SEO today? Is there becoming something available that will do some of the work for you?
Yeah, there's I think 2 ways to think about it. One is AI is a tool and it can help you with your current process or processes. So for example, there could be, we do a lot of creative briefs. We do a lot of outlines for pages, and then they get written, and then they get edited, then they get published. The outline can be super helpful to use ChatGPT, for example. Super helpful. And I worked in car insurance for more than a minute. So a lot of the things that I test, I throw car insurance against it because I know the category fairly well. So I think what I tested in ChatGPT was 10 ways to save on car insurance. Something broad that you could look at and react to, right? So it sort of served as an intern in this use case for myself and gave me something to react to. If I didn't know the topic, I would look at it and go, that looks 100%. Let's just go. Let's just write it. But I knew the topic fairly well. And so what I saw was, well, it's sort of 70% good. These things aren't missing. I need to throw these things in there. And these things that it's suggesting, they're just not relevant. Like it just doesn't make sense. So take them out. So it can be a wonderful tool and can shortcut things. It's way more helpful if you know something about the thing you're doing, be it writing the copy, getting the links to technical. AI doesn't do a technical audit. And there's other tools out there that do this more or less automated technical audits. And they're still not foolproof. You still need to go through it. You still need a background in the knowledge to take a look at it, decipher, is it good? Is it true? Is it not true? Is it high severity? Is it low severity? And you still need that human brain to kick in and figure out what the truth is. So that's one scenario, improving processes. The other scenario is it's the final output, for example, right? So there's a lot of content creation tools out there, and some of them are better than others. You can read through it, and maybe it sounds like a human, maybe it doesn't sound like a human, and so here's the cautionary tale: is Google they sort of been a little confusing about this AI content. They say, on one hand, our stance has always been, we don't like auto-generated content. On the other hand, good quality content should rank just fine. You choose your own adventure, right? Like, which one is it going to be? And so it is a cautionary tale. We're going to have some big winners. We're going to have some big losers. There's been some bigger publishers who have published content and made AI the author. People didn't tend to like that. For very basic content where AI can go scrape 10 good pages and rewrite it and structure it well, that could work out. But when we're talking about something more personalized, when we're talking about really positioning the unique selling proposition of a brand, AI is probably better used as a tool, not as the final output mechanism.
That's pretty good stuff you're talking about, and I know that the future is.
Dr. Bill, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, your speech went away for a second. It's still gone.
I was complimenting Siri. We were talking about AI, and she took over.
Yeah. Here we are back again after Siri. Hey, people fail in setting up their websites because of three main reasons. What would they be for you?
For me, it would be thinking with the lens of SEO. It would be thinking this free traffic is free to get. That's not true. You need a budget, you need a line item. It costs money, resources to get it done. The other is resilience. People, this whole we'll call it the news cycle. There's always something different. There's always something new. People are on to the next thing any minute of the day. Well, you need resilience. You need gumption. You need to stick with it, or else you're not going to get a good outcome. And the last thing I would say is patience. SEO, just like your 401k, it's a long-term game. If you're not there to build something meaningful, if you're not there to serve others, if you're not there to build a brand that's worth having a relationship with, then maybe SEO is not for you.
That's a great analogy with the 401k. What is the motto of your company, Optics In?
I really don't have one. The closest I have one is get ready to be found, because that's what we help people do.
I like it. Get ready to be found. You don't get found, you don't make sales.
That's the basic math right there, Dr. Bill. Yep.
Three things that people can do, secrets that you have that you could share.
I don't know if they're secrets or not, but don't base your strategy on the next tweet. Work with someone who is reputable. Consultants can take you a pretty good distance to your destination, but they can't take you all the way there. You know your website better than anyone else. Did I hit three? I think I hit three.
Would you say don't do hands off? You got to be personally involved?
Absolutely. There's some folks who, for one reason or another, they're busy or priorities, or they get bored of their business. They're sort of absentee landlords in some ways, and then they come back around and they ask what happened, how come it didn't work out. In some cases, well, it's a partnership. We are working together to get this result, and so we need to do that, and that can be a tee up and framework of the conversation, and then the consultant and team goes. That happens, and then we check in once a week, once a month, once a whatever. But there needs to be some amount of partnership and responsibility on both sides for this to work out.
Would you say that targeted traffic is the holy grail of a website?
Yes, 100%. And so I would frame it this way, and I'll use an example of a client that came through. They had a dog soap. It was only one product they were selling. And so the conversation was great. We can talk about dog soap. That's probably going to be 10 pages. After that, it's going to get very hard to get targeted traffic. So do you have a roadmap for your products? Is it just liquid dog soap? Is it bar soap? Like what are we talking about? Also, do you have soap for horses, for cats, etc.? Or are you a care company? Are you looking out for the interest of the animal? Pick your lane, pick your aboutness, which is a term that we use with clients. So what is your site about? Which is akin to a mission statement or purpose of the company.
I like, what is your aboutness? That's perfect. I understand it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And so if it's only dog soap, the aboutness is micro. It's going to be super targeted, but you really can't, there's not a lot to work with there. So you need to expand the aboutness to make it more than that, and make it about arguably different types of soap, different animals, or overall care for an animal. But yes, targeted content, answering the questions that people have. They're out there. There's tools that actively show you what people are searching for. Just answer the questions well.
Why should somebody come to your company, Optics In?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been doing SEO since 2003. Have a pretty good track record. No, not everything worked out. If you talk to someone in any discipline, a marketing discipline, they say that everything worked out. That would be a cautionary tale right there. But what we do have is methodologies that do get results pretty darn consistently. We've worked with small, medium, and entrepreneurs, also enterprise companies from time to time. And what we do, it simply works. We have a process. We work through it, and we get results.
Now, does that include building the website or just taking an existing website and adding to it?
Yeah, we typically don't build the website. We're working with folks during the build, or typically that doesn't happen. Typically, they come to us after some time period where something is there's an event happens. Someone notices they're not getting SEO. The paid traffic gets expensive. Something happens, or someone went to a conference, right? And so then they'll come to us and they'll say, we want to work with you on SEO, which is why we typically start with a technical audit, because SEO is driven through a very specific lens. And from a technical perspective, if it quote unquote works, it may technically, but it may not work for SEO. So that's where we start.
Who's your ideal client on this, Nick?
Yeah, small and medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs. Domain wise, we've worked with a bunch of folks. We've worked with cannabis, be it THC, be it CBD. We worked with shipping. We've worked with produce companies, all in the auto space. We are all over the place, and we get consistent results all over those categories.
And what size company you say is a company that should, how much? I'm thinking about the cost per month that they should invest. You got some guidelines on that?
Yeah, so the basic guideline is, and I'll get to more specifics, is the more you spend, the higher chance of getting good return. It's really simple, right? And the spend reflects the effort. So if we're talking about $1,000, it's probably too little. Our minimum contract for a retainer is $2,500. Typically 45 to 55 is a pretty good contract in terms of the effort that goes into it. There's folks that charge a lot more. There's folks that charge a lot less. We're in that ballpark, serving small, medium-sized companies. So
you have to be a fairly ongoing concern to put in $5,000 a month. You've got, what size company would do that? Like $1 million or more sales or less?
It depends. So we may be talking about sales, or we may be talking about funding. I couldn't give you a good answer on that. I don't get into people's businesses from that perspective. I can tell you that the size of the company, people-wise, and we could probably back into the numbers, somewhere between 5 people and 50 people are the size of the companies that we typically work with.
Yeah, I'm thinking most companies earn anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 per employee. So if you look at the number of employees, you can do multiples on how much their revenues are. But in a percentage of overhead, how much do you see people spending on SEO? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to give that a little more thought. I'm not sure. I can tell you that for some folks who start out slower, it's a 3 or 4 month engagement, and really it's not about the spend for those folks at that point in time. It's about are we a good fit? Can we work together well? And I want to make sure that it's a good fit for us as well. So that's one way to do it. And then typically there's a longer engagement. If things work out the first 3 months, we all agree that we're doing the right things the way we want to do them. We have the right resources. We have the right budget to fund the resources. And then we get into 6-month and 12-month contracts.
And SEO is part of marketing budget, right?
Yeah.
Typically 3 to 5% in an existing small business goes to marketing, up to 10% in new businesses. But if you just rely on the internet as your resource for sales, then it would probably be higher.
Yeah, I mean the unfortunate and lovely thing about SEO is that it's that 401k model. Right? You put the effort in, you put before you see the gains. However, once you start to see the gains, we're sort of in maintenance mode to some extent, versus that upfront pushing the cart up the hill mode. It gets easier as you get more traction.
Here's a question: can that 401k be gutted by, say, a divorce, like Google takes away half your earnings because they change their algorithm?
Oh, it's a really good question. Yeah, that can happen in multiple ways. So that can happen. Deviant.org was a good example of that, right? So we weren't the government agency. Also, it sounded like we were the government agency. There's also algorithm updates, as you say, as you pointed out. If you're doing the right things consistently over a period of time, you're going to get a good result. If you start to mess around with black hat tactics, questionable tactics, if you get impatient and press on the gas in a way that's not productive, that can come back around and bite you in the butt.
Well, we could talk a lot about different techniques and what's black hat, what's white hat, gray hat. But unless that's important, we'll skip that one and go to who's your ideal client?
Yeah, it's going to be those small, medium-sized businesses.
And how do you find those? Next question.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate over the past 4 years. It's been a ton of referral business for me.
It's not SEO?
One of the most foolish things I could do as an SEO company is try to play the SEO game with companies that have bigger budgets than I do. I just don't do it. I'd rather have my work speak for it and reputation speak for the work, and that's how we generate the business.
That's interesting. Interesting. If you don't have the budget, it's not worth it.
Well, I'm largely a solopreneur with a team of 1099s, right? So my marketing budget is it's less than what we talked about.
Interesting story, but it's honest. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are your well-defined products and services? Can you list one or two strictly?
Yeah, we have technical audits, we have content creation, we have backlink acquisition. The latest one is for folks who want to do it themselves or don't want to pay someone else to do it, and they want to take the time to learn it. Throwing back to the conversation we were having earlier about Shari Thoreau coming in and validating what we know, what we don't know. I recently put together a training, basically doing the same thing. That's the idea, which is to validate what people know and teach them what they don't. And that training is, a lot of that is what we do with the clients here. You could go to Twitter, you can go to any of the magazines, you can get the article of the day. And what that's going to do is probably make someone who hasn't been in the space feel like that is the thing they need to focus on. And the reality is, doing the basics really, really well is what really moves the needle. And people get impatient. So they go to Twitter and they go to those articles and they go, oh, that's what I must be doing. Schema is the next great thing. Maybe sometimes, but it doesn't, if that's not on top of the basics, forget about it and forget everything else. You got to nail the basics really, really well. And that can generate a lot of traffic for you.
So backlinks is a big deal now still.
Technical content, or a good, clean, technical, efficient platform, good content, saying the right thing targeting the right content and saying it the right way, and have something valuable to say that's shareable, which would create a passive link acquisition channel, as well as an active backlink acquisition. Yeah, backlinks are still important. Yep.
What about putting all the alt tags in the pictures and doing all the proper links inside?
Yes, and if we don't have good technical, good content, and some amount of good backlinks, that icing on top of the cake won't matter.
How do you crush your competition? What's your one thing you'd say?
I mean, as you pointed out, I don't crush the competition in the SEO space for myself, but for my clients, it's really about having a good strategy to leverage their website where they are, and showing them momentum that we can get, right. So we're not trying to crush someone's competition over here. We're trying to make this website better than what it was yesterday.
Is there any particular platform that you rely on heavily?
Be it like a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we live and die by Asana, which is a project management tool. A lot of folks like to manage work through Slack or through email, or spreadsheets are helpful, but it should be in relationship to Asana. I highly recommend someone using Asana or Monday or whatever the preference is. But if you're not using a project management tool, you're not efficient as far as I'm concerned. So that is one of the primary items that we use. We also use, obviously, the SEO tools, Google Search Console, Google Analytics. SEMrush is one of our favorites, but there's also Ahrefs and there's SpyFu for at lower cost. There's Bright Edge Conductor for if you're an enterprise. We don't use those too often these days. I'm sure I'm missing something someplace there. Oh, for writing content, there's ClearScope, there's Surfer SEO, there's MarketMuse. Those are all wonderful tools. Some folks may consider those to be AI centric, depending on your definition of AI.
Now, are most of those things you have to pay for? So you value them because they're valuable, what they give you the result. But how does the cost ratio versus the different programs work?
Yeah, so Google Analytics, Google Search Console are free. If you don't have them set up, I highly suggest you set them up today. They will give you a lens into your website specifically. SEMrush, for example, or Surfer SEO or ClearScope, those are all paid tools. And if you're going to hunker down into SEO or any other marketing discipline, you need the tools. You need something to give you data, something you can work with that'll help shape your deliverables. So yeah, highly recommend something to work with. It doesn't have to be those, but find something that you need that'll help you out creating what you're creating today.
And if something comes along that's useful and better in this area, definitely you would look at that.
Give it a go. Absolutely.
Tell me about the 5-star client experience. Is there one example of somebody who you impressed enough with your results?
Yeah, we'll go with the client that I mentioned earlier, whose traffic went from 14,000 to over 200,000 visits a month. Again, that's not typical, but that's a wonderful case study. We've been working with those folks for 3-ish years at this point, and there's other folks who that's not typical. So I like to throw another one in there. And so the other folks I work with are a lot of folks who they have smaller budgets and they're getting started. For those folks, sometimes they're literally starting at zero. Right? They're starting at 0 SEO visits. And so to get them to, I'm thinking of one in particular where we got to 40,000 SEO visits in about 12 months. That's a meaningful amount of traffic and conversion when that happens. It's just that, for a lot of folks, SEO has a bad name for good reasons. And 2, there's a patience factor to it. And so if you don't hunker down and simply decide to do SEO, if you don't commit to it, just like anything else, you're not going to get the results. So these folks, one that I'm thinking of in particular, focused on it, and we got good results, and that was a pretty good celebration.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's a good 5-star experience. They go that far that fast.
That's true.
So paid digital media, that's a question I like to ask about. Do you use the Facebook, the Google, the LinkedIn ads to draw in and get more clients?
I do not. I work with a partner who does do that. And so in combination, that could be a wonderful traffic generator, and one does feed on the other.
How do you determine the difference between the paid results and the SEO results? I'm assuming the SEO results is another word for organic, or is it another whole different category?
Well, ideally you have good tracking, good metrics, and you have someone who's monitoring GA, G4 these days, or you have another application that could be doing it. I've heard some, and so I think we're all learning about G4 and what it can't do, and the setup required to do it. I've heard mixed reviews, and so historically speaking, it's been about the right tracking. Click on a link, have tracking, have sources that have been set up, events in Google. And so we're looking to do that all over again in the brand new world of G4. Some folks I've talked to are scrapping G4.
What about this? Is it your responsibility as an SEO company to monitor the traffic, the sources, the results, or is it the companies? They should have that on board and somebody there do all that.
It depends on the agreement. We have SOWs, statements of work, that are spelled out very clearly. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the timeline we're going to do it, and our roles and responsibilities. If it's not included with that, it's like going to the gas station, getting your car filled up with gas, and then you wonder why you didn't get your oil changed. Right? You didn't go there for your oil. You went there for gas. That was the agreement. And so if someone's going to think that you owe them an oil change, or that's the expectation, then that's out of alignment.
So it's negotiable in the beginning.
Yeah. As the famous marketing statement says, it depends.
Makes sense. Do you have a figure for a percentage of revenue that should be put into paid digital media versus the organic route?
I don't, but I would say this: there's going to be some things you're doing today that work, some things that don't work. The things that are working, maximize them as much as you can. At some point, you're going to see diminishing returns. Those go into a bucket of, we'll call it the 80%, the things that we know that work. There's another bucket called the 20%, where it's things we do not work, or we haven't figured out, something like that. Ideally, those items do get figured out and they go into the 80% bucket, and then they get maximized. So that's the basic framework we use when we're talking with folks when they say, well, should I do SEO or email? Well, let's talk about your resources. Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about your budget. I know what it takes for SEO. If you say email is the priority, and you have $100 a month to allocate to SEO, then SEO is not the conversation we should be having today.
If you look again at the question of targeted traffic and its value, SEO falls on the side of you need to get the targeted traffic, and you use SEO to get it. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah.
If you're getting targeted traffic anyway, do you still need SEO?
Oh, it's a really lovely question. I guess it depends on how much you want to grow your business. Also, diversification. So like SEO isn't the only thing that can be impacted by an algorithm. There's algorithms with Facebook, there's algorithms with Twitter, X, whatever we want to call it, and all this other social platforms. There's algorithms, minimally regulations, different features that would show up with paid search. I think things change. The worst thing you could do, so we'll just use DMV.org again. DMV.org drove 185 million visits a year. When it came down to it, there was no business strategy. It was an SEO play. So when SEO went away, so did a lot of revenue. So diversify your marketing. It should be a marketing mix, not an SEO play, not a paid play, not a Facebook play.
And that's the question I had too about SEO in general. We always assume it's just talking about Google and websites, but does it expand out into all the social media outlets also?
It's almost like PR, where dropping the press release doesn't really do a whole lot for your SEO. You get on the wire, you get a bunch of links back from Business Wire, and people go, all right, backlinks. It didn't do anything. The value of dropping that press release is that people pick up the story because it's interesting. They write about it on their websites, then they link back to you, and that creates another conversation. Same is true with social, with one exception, I would say. is that you still have that PR aspect. People talk about it, therefore link, and you get traffic back. One, so if you're a publisher, you get the eyeballs. If you're not a publisher and you monetize another way, you get brand awareness. Now you're part of that consideration set. But the other thing, in my professional opinion, is that referral traffic from those sources are signs of life of a real company. There's so many fake companies. So if you can give Google signs of life, which are arguably backing up into signals that support two E's now: experience, expertise, authority, and trust. One E has been around for years. But if you can tell Google that you're a real business in one way or another, because you publish content, because you have comments on your site, because you have an active social, and that's driving traffic and that creates a buzz, that is something that I would highly encourage.
So, signs of life need to show up for Google to recognize you. I like that one. Looking back at yourself as a young 20-year-old, I know you're probably 25 now, so you have to look back a few years. What would you give yourself? What advice?
Yeah, I would, for a long time, I wanted to start my own business and it just wasn't a place to do it. My younger self, I would say start sooner, whatever that means. I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but generally the guideline would be start sooner.
Yeah. Did you have a mentor that's been important? You did mention somebody up front.
Yeah, Shari Thoreau was fantastic. She helped to get me on the straight and narrow SEO path. I learned a ton from her. We still chat. I co-authored a book with her. She has been an SEO mentor for me. Yeah.
Yeah. In your own right, do you want to be impactful, or is that important to you?
I do. I was thinking about this the other day. We have family, we have our hobbies, we have our work. I feel like it's important to get involved in something that's bigger than what you are, that will not be solved in your lifetime. Be it domestic abuse, be it homelessness, be it animal welfare. Get involved in something where you're not going to see the final resolution, but you're a cog in the wheel. And I say that with a positive angle, where you're pushing this thing towards a productive end of the spectrum. You're making things better. Get involved and make something better. And don't be disheartened that it's not going to be perfect, that you're not going to get every homeless person off the street, that you're not going to get every animal out of a shelter. If you can do good for a human being, a animal, then I would encourage getting involved today.
I like it. Hey, let's break from SEO and tell me this painting behind you. Is that your wife's work? And does she have a title of it?
It's a famous artist, and I forget the name. I think it's called The Lovers, and people have multiple reactions to it.
I keep it there.
Yeah,
Love in the era of COVID, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe blind date. Maybe a double blind. Anyway. I thought that was interesting. I mean, you definitely have the best set I've seen.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Great. What do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
Ideally, I left people a little bit better than how I found them. More things, people, animals, the place, whatever we're talking about.
Organically speaking.
Organically speaking, how can we support you? I was talking about that class, and the spirit of putting that class together is to do the same thing for other folks today that Shari did for me 20 years ago. Validate what we know, give them a resource that's not expensive. It'll solve about 80% of the problems for 80% of the people. Every website is unique, right? There's no training with any discipline that is going to solve all your problems. However, having a good foundation is not something you find going through the Twitter, or something you find on industry website of the day. It's just not there. So that's why I put this together. I wanted to help folks who couldn't afford to work with me on a daily basis on a 6-month contract, give them something to work with, help them get results. So if folks want to go to SEOwithnick.com, It'll redirect to Teachable. It's 30% off until the end of the month for folks who are listening to this or fans of Dr. Bill. Be happy to help out. If there's questions, email me. I'm not hard to find. Find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, good. I'll put that link in the show notes, descriptions, and things on this as I can. So that'll be helpful for people to find you. Say it one more time, the URL.
Yeah, it is seowithnick.com.
Very clear. What would you say about your experience on the show today, Nick?
I enjoyed myself. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. This is good. I've been a webmaster in the past and built many websites, so I have a little understanding, and I know SEO is part of it that I got lost in space, and probably why I gave it up and went back to being a full-time dentist. I want to give you a chance to say the final word, and then I'll come back and chat for a moment with you. And
I'll
tell the audience a few more details about what I'm doing. But go ahead. I'll give.
What happened? I think we're still recording here. Final word is whether it's SEO or something else, get started today. If it's SEO, great. If you need a course, great. If not, keep on going. Have patience to do the right things. If it's email, get on email. If it's paid, get on paid. Either way, start it. Have some patience with yourself. Get results. Keep on moving.
There you have it, Nick Musica, Carlsbad, California, an expert in SEO, somebody who's done it well. And I can tell from the way you handle the interview that most things you say you want to do, you will get done. So that's exciting to know. I want to share with the audience about the QR code up there on my corner. You can take a picture of that and learn all about me, what I'm doing. My digital business card is what it links to. And the URL is ovu.me at ONPASSIVE, which is a great business card technique that we use for SEO purposes, of course. You can find two things out on that business card. One is going to go to my influencers podcast list of everybody that I've interviewed. So got 50 or 60 different wonderful interviews, and we're going to add Nick's up there today. So you can find them all, but you can also find out my books and my other things I'm doing. Most notably right now, I'm working in AI technology. That's my business. And I have many software products that can help you grow your business. So just go to otrim.co/Dr. Bill W for more information on that. If you didn't click the QR code. Hey, Nick, I thought it was appropriate to mention one that you could use starting today. O-Tracker is one of our products, and it's touted to be far better and much less expensive than anything else on the market related to tracking web analytics.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
If you will get that and look at it, there's a free trial. So you just take a look at it. And the free version is like, I think it's like half of what's there. The other half is in a very inexpensive paid version that'll be available maybe in the next week for those who want to go past the free version. So, yeah, I always would appreciate an expert's advice on it if they want to tell us how they like it. Anybody in the audience listening in, take advantage of Nick's training, take advantage of his SEO for his expertise on your website could prove the difference in your profitability. So that's the key in SEO, getting profits out of squeezing the lemon, you might say. As I was in Davidson, North Carolina yesterday having breakfast at a cafe, a sign on the wall says "Squeeze the Day," and it was sitting just above the oranges.
It's funny.
So get your orange juice straight from, Nick, and he'll squeeze your day, give you more profits. Been fun being here with you on Influencers Podcast. I look forward to more conversations, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see y'all on the Influencers Podcast. More fun this week with Dr. Bill Williams from Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for tuning in.